Hi, I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig. Welcome to my new series called The Pivot. We are so excited to bring you deeper conversations with people who've made really impactful changes in their lives. We're going to find out how they do it and how you can also learn from their experience. We're thrilled to be partnering with Signal Relief, a pain patch reliever. I've used it and had tremendous success. We're really excited to have you join us and learn more about how to make the important pivots in your life. Hello, I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig. Welcome to The Pivot. We are so excited to have Donny Deutsch here with us today. He's a marketing guru and TV personality. You might have seen him on MSNBC, The Big Idea with Donny Deutsch, The Today Show, and now he has a new podcast called On Brand with Donny Deutsch. He's going to tell us how he pivoted into the media world. Donny, thank you so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure to be here.
I always love seeing you.
Love seeing you.
And what people don't know is that you are such a good friend and family man.
Thank you.
You really pride yourself on showing up.
I try.
A lot of people know you and love you from The Big Idea with Donny Deutsch. And I was actually on that show. I don't know if you remember, but I was on as a guest.
Okay.
I didn't own a business. I think you had several people.
Probably it was just something that we were doing on Help or whatever.
I guess.
Yeah.
And all I remember talking about was what I would hear as I was pursuing my profession, the word no.
Right.
And that I thought my middle name was No, because that's what it could be like. But many people love you from just TV. They're huge fans. They see you all the time. They relate to you. You're a guy's guy. But you started off in advertising.
Yeah, media is my second career. I started off, I came out of college, University of Pennsylvania, went to work for a large ad agency called Ogilvy & Mather, and eventually went to work with my dad, who had a small agency at the time, and we were able to kind of really scale it. And Deutsch Advertising, when we sold it, it was the largest independent agency in the world. I loved it. I did that for about 20, 25 years. And then after I sold it, I was like, okay, what's next? I realized when I had the agency, I would always get the call to be on the Today Show or CNBC. I was the ad guy. Usually in industries, there's a divorce lawyer, there's an ad guy, they go at the psychologist,
Yes.
So I always ended up doing media and doing interviews. And at the end of every interview, the producer would go, "You're really good at this. You should do this someday." So that's what happened.
So when you took over the agency, now your dad gave you the agency, right?
Well, I bought it from him.
Oh, you bought it from him?
Yes. But he, at a good price. So let's say he gave it to me.
Yeah, and you describe your dad as your best friend.
He was my best friend,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I got to know my dad as a man working for him. Growing up, he was always working like all dads. It was different time. Dads went to work.
Yeah.
My mom was working also. She was a teacher. But, I loved my dad. My dad was great. But I really got to know him man to man working for him. And I think we overlapped for about 7 or 8 years. It was just like the best 7 years of my life.
What did you learn from him that really stood out to you?
I learned about hard work and perseverance, about sticking and living to your values, treating the guy that's running the elevator the same way you treat the CEO, treat everybody the same, elevate people, honesty, integrity. He was a man of great principle.
So when you were working in advertising, did you realize you wanted media, or it was just after you started doing these interviews and people were calling?
I'd get a little bit of a rush from it, and I just realized I loved doing media. I loved the energy of it, the fun of it. And so after I sold the agency and I was looking for my next act, I met with the head of William Morris. And, there's a thing I used to say I used to give motivational speeches, and I have written a couple of books. And one chapter in one of my books is called Why Not Me? And that if you meet the uber successful people in the world, I mean, the top CEOs, biggest celebrities, politicians, in addition to having the toolbox of being really smart and really driven and all that stuff, they have this other thing, this naive sense of entitlement of like, why not me? So in order to make those hard right turns in life, like if I want to run for mayor, nobody's going to tap me on the shoulder. I have to go, why not? I could do this. I could raise money. I have a platform, blah, 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 blah. So that's the way I felt about going into TV. Well, why not me? Why shouldn't I have a TV show? Why not? I'm personable. I'm bright. I'm an expert in something. So those set of words are a very empowering set of words.
I agree with you. I think people who do want to make it, they have a sense that they can do it.
Yes.
And they make sure that they get out there and develop the skills they need to in order to present themselves.
But if you don't have that, that's the final secret sauce. You need the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like fake it till you make it. It's not like, well, I'm entitled to it. And I don't mean entitled in the bad sense of the word. I mean, just why not? And where I got that from was interesting. In the early 90s, I worked on Clinton's ad campaign. And I remember, this is Bill Clinton, by the way. We're dating ourselves here.
Bill Clinton,
this
yes.
is not Hillary. But I was working on the Clinton campaign. And it was the night before we were going to meet the president for the first time. And at the next table was his inner circle, was Mandy Grunwald, George Stephanopoulos, James Carville. And I'm listening to them talk, and I'm like, all right, no geniuses there. They're smart, and these people are going to be running the world. And, every time I met some master of the universe, and you peel back the skin, they're bright, but there's no magic trick.
Yeah, they're people who had a vision.
And who are flawed.
And also I think the why not me, it's about once you get there, you have to be somewhat comfortable.
Yes.
Otherwise you'll self-destruct and you won't stay there.
Yes. Staying there also is how you perform. People, the key to leading people is they have to know that you're willing to do anything that you're asking them to do. And that if they're working 16 hours, you're willing to work 16 hours. And you lead by example. And there's no other way to do it. There's no secret formula. It's being in the trenches and also showing people you care about their success as much as your own. Not more, because then you're not going to get anywhere, not less. That makes you a jerk. But if people know, and everybody's definition for success is different. For some people, it's pure money. For other people, it's attention. For other people, it's winning awards. But understanding what's a win for people beyond what you want to win to be for your company. And if you do that, people will follow you anywhere.
For you, how do you define personal success? Because you have a lot of money, you have looks, you have, a lot of things going for you.
I think it's making a difference. I think it's impacting people. It's why I like being on television now, talking about politics and things. If you can just affect somebody. When I had the big idea that you mentioned, people would stop me on the street. Because of you, I started a business, or somebody will come up to me and, because I'm speaking out on some issue, thank you for speaking out. It gave me strength. I mean, that's it. That's what do we leave here? Right. We leave our impact on other people. And obviously, it starts with your family and your children. But if you can impact, and when I was running my agency, other people started agencies after working for me. And to know that you're 1/10 of 1% of the reason they did what they did, that's just very stimulative and very exciting and very rewarding. And so I like making a difference, particularly at this point. You mentioned, I've had financial success. So I never define success that way.
Yeah.
But once you have it, it gives you the luxury to maybe say, okay, it's not about money, it's about other things. And that's a rich guy's point of view of things. You don't get to say that if you're clawing and you're trying to make ends meet. Yeah. But if you get to the point and you're lucky enough and you have some financial independence, then it's about, I think, making a difference.
And it's funny because when I was in Israel a few years ago, I remember everybody in Israel was saying, Israel has a PR problem. They do so many things that are good and good for the world, and yet somehow don't get recognized. And I remember when I was in Israel, I was like, I wonder what Donny would do to fix this issue. And at one point in your media career, you really went from sharing business expertise and you transitioned into politics and leaning in with your Jewishness. And I want to hear what contributed to that pivot.
Well, the politics happened organically over time. I started doing Morning Joe. I've been doing it for 15 years. And I'm a Democrat, and I was a big anti-Trumper. And I just felt like I had a purpose. I felt like I just had a lot to share. I would go on air and give strategic, directions for what the Democrats should do or why the Republicans are doing that. And I was good at it, and I liked it. And then to my earlier argument, making a difference, I felt in that space, you really can make a difference. You can change one voter's mind, or you can bring an issue to people. I loved it. the part about, Israel and my Jewishness really happened, and I'm going to sound like a broken record. A lot of people say this after October 7th. You know, I always had a great sense of Judaism. I went to temple on the high holidays, not a religious Jew, but I always felt a strong Jewish identity. And October 7th, and I said the only silver lining, it's not even a silver lining, the only thing that came out of that wasn't heinous was that a lot of people did get in touch with their Jewishness.
Yes, that's true.
Their identity. And I felt that a platform on TV, and a lot of the media was not speaking up. And I found myself having a platform on Morning Joe and Nicole Wallace's show. So I became kind of a voice, and it felt wonderful. And I just felt things needed to be said. I was one of the first people to kind of speak out and say, why isn't people speaking? You forget the few days after October 7th, it was like outrage, wasn't like, how could this happen? It was like somehow the Jews had it coming to them.
Yeah.
Somehow they deserved it. Somehow, what did they do wrong to deserve this?
And what did Israel do wrong?
What did Israel do wrong? And I was one of the first people to come out like, guys, this is fucking upside down.
Yeah.
They've been heinously attacked in the most brutal, inhumane way that you can attack people. And why is Israel on defense? Somehow Israel has to explain in ways that other groups don't. They're in a war now, and there are atrocities that come with a war. Yet the other wars that go on, the atrocities are not brought up. But somehow with Jews, you are the oppressor. You're always the oppressor. And look, there's the issues in the Middle East are complicated. And you can agree with Bibi Netanyahu or disagree. And look, Israelis are split on this. And there's a lot of, I think, pent-up hatred for Jews that people are using as an excuse now.
Yes. What's
going on in Palestine to attack Jews. And we're in a scary place. And I'm concerned that something really grave is going to happen. Not that these are not grave things, but on a bigger scale.
What do you think might happen or could happen?
And I want to go back to what enabled this was the allowing of all of the hate speech to happen on the campuses. From the river to the sea means there should be no Israel. And globalizing intifada means kill Jews. Okay, when you allow that kind of hate speech on campuses, you are basically saying this hate is okay. And so if hate is okay, there are many ways to show hate.
Right.
And the worst way is violence.
And it's not hard to hate.
It's not hard to hate.
It's easy to do.
And, for some reason, the hatred of Jews has always fallen into a different kind of, like a what, a but if.
You're really brave to talk about politics. I decided not to talk about politics a long time ago. I'm like, I prefer to talk about murder cases and psychology where it's safe. What got you to make that, I think, just difficult, dangerous decision? Because I'm sure that you get a lot of feedback,
both positive and negative.
Yeah,
a lot of it came from Trump, and I used to be friends with Trump, and I knew Trump well, and I always got a kick out of him. I didn't like a lot of what he was doing, and I was very outspoken. Now I'm equally unhappy with the Democrats. I think Trump's doing some good things, he's doing some bad things. I'm very down on the Democrats. I think they're leaning too hard left. Yeah. So I'm kind of neutralized right now. I don't know what to think right now. I think on Trump, the essence of certain things he's doing are right. We need to close the border. That doesn't mean you deport people illegally.
Right.
We needed to get the EI under control. That doesn't mean you overreach with universities. We need to clean up the government and get rid of the waste. That doesn't mean you take a sledgehammer to it across the board. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the things is just there's an overreach with a lot of what he does. But the Democrats right now don't stand for anything.
Right.
And if the party is lurching left, if the party is the party of AOC and Bernie Sanders, and that's not my party. So right now I'm an independent.
Well, I think that's a smart place to be. Have you seen the impact leaning forward with your Judaism has had, like joining your celebrity with your Judaism?
It's been very rewarding. People stop me and say thank you. And they'll touch their heart. Because there are very few people, I'm not the biggest media personality, but there are very few people in mass media in general that are talking about it. And I don't know if it's because they're afraid of alienating a certain part of their audiences. Very few celebrities have spoken up because they think somehow if they speak up for Jews, they're in some way diminishing their empathy for other peoples. For the Palestinians. You can say, a dead child is a dead child, and it's horrible either way.
Absolutely.
But when you come out, when something happens on a given day with Jews, it's an atrocity. You don't have to say "but" afterwards. You can just condemn it without saying, because when you condemn other people, when you condemn, atrocities against other people, you don't go, and it's also bad that this and this and this happens. But with Jews, somehow to stand up for Jews, there's a inferred essence that you're not standing up for the other side also.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because it's so true. And I think that there's a lot of fear about cancel culture.
Yes.
Like, do you ever fear that you'll get canceled?
Yeah, let me get canceled. I can get canceled.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Part of that comes with some of your earlier questioning is a little later in life, you get certain independence. By the way, if I was running my agency, I wouldn't probably be as brave because I have clients.
Yeah.
That clients can, all of a sudden, if I'm representing Walmart, I'm just making up a company, and all of a sudden I start being outspoken, and they get letters from tens of thousands of their customers. Your ad agency is about, so you have a fiduciary. That's why a lot of CEOs haven't spoken out, and I don't blame them. They have a fiduciary responsibility. So if a big CEO comes out and his business suffers because of it, his shareholders suffer. And he has a responsibility to those shareholders. So it's not so. I'm kind of a free agent right now. So I'm in a position to do it. And I wouldn't necessarily be in that position if I was still doing what I was doing 20 years ago.
Well, I'm glad that you can say important things to your public out there and for the Jewish community, and also standing up and understanding that war is horrific.
Yes.
And nobody wants to see anyone dead.
What I don't, it's interesting. There's a lot of Jewish people, very extreme. They can't see any grays, and there are grays here.
Yeah.
You have to be able to empathize. By the way, there are a large group of Palestinians radicalized at this point, yes, but they're also innocent people. Right. But innocent people get killed in war.
That's right.
But you can still have empathy. You can still say, maybe we got to get our arms around this and figure out, because killing is killing. Right. You have to remember that. Always caveat that Hamas put this in motion, but yet any civilian that's killed is a tragedy.
Be nice to see a solution that benefits everyone.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It's interesting. I had Newt Gingrich on my podcast the other day. It's actually just breaking tomorrow. And I asked him, I said, it's a Rubik's Cube. What's your answer to this? Yeah. Because Israel's losing the PR war, yet they've got to get rid of Hamas. So what do you do? Yeah. And his whole explanation was it's all about Qatar, and you've got to get in there with the Qataris and whatever. But it's a Rubik's Cube. It is. There isn't an elegant solution. And how do you have a two-state solution if one of the states still's main goal is to eradicate the other state? So it's a tough one. I don't have the answer.
Okay.
Things are way above my pay grade.
What's next for you, Donny? What do you see the next chapter being
question.
for you?
I don't know. I've had a very varied and exciting career. I've had a very rewarding personal life, raising daughters, married twice. I'll get it right at one point. I don't know what's next. That's a great question. I'm 67. So I still feel like I know a lot of years ahead of me, but I also recognize 67 in the media world. You're not young anymore.
Yeah.
So it's hard. There are certain barriers at this point that understandably so in every industry. But I'll continue to get my voice out there and figure out ways to do it.
Well, I certainly hope you do. And do your kids want to get into television? Do you know what they want yet?
I know one of my daughters is very into interior design, and she's working with an interior designer. My youngest one is still in high school. And I think she'll do something in communications. And I think she said she wants to make a difference. She said she's really proud of me that sometimes I'm able to do that, and that she wants to do that.
Nothing better than that, right?
Nothing better than that.
So what would you like your legacy to be as we come to a close?
Legacy. He touched a lot of people. He was on the right. He was a good guy. He tried to make a difference. He had a big heart. And he tried to use his talents to make this a little bit of a better place.
Well, in my book, that's all true, Donny. Thank you so much
for
coming
having me. It's a privilege to be here.
I love you.
And I love you too, and I love your family. Yeah. Special shout out to your parents.
Oh, they
Cutest
love
people
you.
in the whole world.
Oh, thank you.